Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever seen a storm coming and the wind just stops? That's not peace. That's a warning. That's exactly what happens when a woman who used to care, used to talk, used to explain, goes quiet. See, the most dangerous woman is not the one who yells, not the one who argues, not the one who cries. It's the one who chooses silence. Because silence is the final stage. That's when she's already made up her mind. That's when she's done trying to be understood. And if you're lucky enough to hear her speak again, just know it's already too late. When a woman chooses silence, it's not because she has nothing to say. It's because she's said enough. She's explained, defended, justified, and repeated herself until her spirit got tired. And now, in that stillness, she's making the boldest move she's ever made. She's choosing herself. People misunderstand silence. They think if someone's not talking, they've given up. But silence is never surrender. It's precision. It's calculation. It's standing tall without saying a word. That's what makes it dangerous, because silence in the hands of a focused woman becomes her weapon. Not to hurt, but to rise. When a woman no longer feels the need to argue or convince, it means she's grown beyond the need for approval. She's stepped out of the noise and into her power. And that power doesn't need to be shouted. It radiates quietly. Power is not always loud. It often walks in quietly, unnoticed, and transforms everything without asking for permission. A woman who chooses silence isn't running from confrontation. She's mastered it. She's learned that arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding her is a waste of time. She doesn't need to win the argument anymore because she's already won her peace. She's done explaining herself to those who don't deserve her truth. She's done proving her worth to people who were never looking. She's done breaking herself just to make others comfortable. That's why her silence is not the absence of voice. It's the presence of wisdom. Noise is cheap. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can clap back, curse out, expose secrets, or start drama. That doesn't take strength. That takes impulse. But it takes real strength to hold your peace in a storm, to stay silent when your ego wants to scream, to walk away when your emotions want to stay and fight. It takes discipline to be silent when you have every reason to react. That's the strategy. A silent woman is watching everything. She sees what you did. She heard what you said. She felt the shift in your energy. But she doesn't flinch. She doesn't chase clarity from people who gave her confusion. She doesn't beg for loyalty from people who traded hers for convenience. She sees it, she absorbs it, she processes it, and then she lets it go. Because silence isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about choosing which battles are worth her time. And most times, the battle isn't out there with someone else. It's inside. The real fight is between her and the part of her that used to settle for less. And the moment she wins that inner battle, the outside world can no longer shake her. That's when she becomes dangerous. Because a silent woman isn't controlled by chaos. She doesn't respond to manipulation. She doesn't react to bait. She responds only to peace, to purpose, to progress. People start to get nervous when she's quiet. They wonder what's going on. Why isn't she calling? Why isn't she arguing anymore? Why isn't she fighting for them? What they don't realize is she already did. She fought, she cried, she tried, and now she's done. Her silence means the decision is made. It means she's no longer available for disrespect, for games, for emotional roller coasters. She's not entertaining what drains her anymore. And the world better believe when she went silent, she didn't just walk away from others. She walked back to herself. She returned to her strength, to her vision, to her value. That's why a silent woman is dangerous, because she no longer plays by the rules others set for her. She writes her own. And her rules are simple: peace over chaos, growth over comfort, self-respect over validation. Every move she makes is intentional. Every word she doesn't say is filled with meaning, because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. You can feel her absence louder than her presence ever was. That's power. You know what's even more dangerous? She doesn't need revenge. She doesn't want to make you feel what she felt. That's too small for her. She wants freedom. She wants peace. And she's willing to lose anyone who threatens that. That's when you know she's different. Because the average woman will argue, she'll plead, she'll over-explain. But a woman who chooses silence, she's already been there, already done that, already exhausted it all. Now she's moving in silence, building in silence, healing in silence. And while others think they've won because she didn't fight back, what they don't realize is she didn't lose. She just evolved. She's no longer the same woman you mistreated. She's not the one who cried herself to sleep. She's not the one who accepted half love, empty words, or broken promises. She's the woman who got quiet, and in that quiet, she built a life you'll never be invited back. Her silence is her boundary. Her silence is her clarity. Her silence is her rebirth. Silence is not weakness. It's the ultimate strategy. It's the calm before the breakthrough. It's the preparation before the elevation. And when she steps out of that silence, the world better be ready, because she's not coming back the same. She's coming back stronger, smarter, and untouchable. That's why the most dangerous woman is the one who chooses silence, because in that silence, she found herself. And once a woman finds herself, she becomes unstoppable. A silent woman is not clueless. She is not passive. She is not weak. She is watching. She is absorbing. She is learning. And she is waiting. That's the most unsettling truth for those who underestimate her. When a woman falls silent, people often think she's broken, but the reality is she's awakening. She has shifted from reaction to reflection, from chasing approval to owning her value. She no longer speaks to prove a point. She no longer explains to justify herself. She watches, because in watching, she sees everything she needs to know. When a woman is still, she begins to see clearly. Clarity doesn't come from arguing or defending. It comes from stepping back and letting the noise fade. And in that quiet, she begins to notice what she overlooked. The energy that shifted when she walked in the room, the tone people used when they thought she wasn't paying attention, the way they started treating her once they thought she needed them. She's not blind to it, she sees it, and she remembers. Her silence becomes her lens. While others keep talking, revealing their intentions and exposing their character, she sits still and listens. She lets the truth unfold naturally. She has no need to push for answers. People tell on themselves when you let them speak long enough. And the more she watches, the more she understands not everyone deserves a reaction, not every situation needs her energy, and not everyone around her is genuine. She's no longer interested in being heard by people who only listen to respond, not to understand. She doesn't need to correct the lies they tell about her. She doesn't need to defend her name in rooms where loyalty never lived. That silence, it's her shield. When she's observing, she's processing. She's taking notes. She's connecting dots. She's seeing who claps when she wins and who goes quiet. She's seeing who supports her in the dark and who only shows up when the light's shining. She sees everything, and yet she says nothing, because she knows that knowledge isn't always meant to be spoken. Sometimes it's meant to guide your next move. That's where her power is. People think power is loud, but the truth is, real power is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream for attention. It's calm, calculated, patient, and that's what makes her dangerous. While others are chasing the spotlight, she's moving in shadows, building quietly, growing silently, preparing deeply. She's not in a rush to show her progress because she knows real success doesn't need applause. It just needs consistency. And the ones who underestimate her silence are the same ones who will be shocked by her comeback. When a woman goes quiet, she's not waiting for someone else to fix the problem. She's working on herself. She's healing from the inside out. She's building boundaries, protecting her peace, unlearning the habits that kept her in places she had no business staying in. And the most powerful thing, she's doing it without telling a soul. She doesn't need validation. She doesn't need someone to clap for her growth. She's doing it because she refuses to be the same woman she was yesterday. So she watches, she learns, she waits. And when the time is right, she moves. Not with noise, not with revenge, but with precision. She may not say a word, but she's already made up her mind. That's why silence is misunderstood. People assume if you're not talking, you're uncertain. But for her, silence is certainty. It means she's done talking. It means her decision is made. It means the door is already closed, even if you haven't realized it yet. She doesn't make threats, she makes changes. And when she finally acts, it's clean. No mess, no drama, just distance. That's how a silent woman handles disrespect. She doesn't fight it, she outgrows it. She doesn't expose the people who betrayed her. She lets life do that. She doesn't try to control the narrative. She simply rewrites her story and removes those who don't belong in the next chapter. And she's not bitter, she's focused. She's not quiet because she has nothing to say. She's quiet because she's said it all before, and now she's choosing not to waste another breath. Let them wonder what she's thinking. Let them panic when the texts stop coming. Let them feel the weight of her absence. Because in her silence, she found her answers. She found her power. She found her direction. And when she finally speaks again, it won't be to argue, to beg, or to explain. It'll be to declare the new standard, the new version of her, the one that no longer tolerates what used to break her, the one that no longer lowers herself to make others feel comfortable, the one that no longer feels guilty for choosing peace over people. So yes, the silent woman is the most dangerous one, because while others were busy underestimating her, she was watching and evolving. She doesn't just know who you are, she knows who she is. And that changes everything. You want to know what makes a woman truly unstoppable? It's when she no longer chases validation. She no longer stretches herself just to make people stay. She no longer begs to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. That's when the game changes. That's when the danger begins. She used to speak to be understood. She used to pour her heart out to the wrong people, thinking they'd value her truth. She used to over-explain her intentions, trying to protect relationships that were never meant to last. She thought loyalty meant holding on, even when it hurt. But pain taught her what peace looks like. Silence taught her who's really listening. And betrayal? That taught her she was giving too much of herself to people who only took her for granted. She no longer tries to prove her worth, because she finally understands it's not her job to convince someone to value what they were never equipped to appreciate. It's not her job to teach someone how to love her properly It's not her job to fight for a seat at tables where she's only being tolerated, not celebrated. She doesn't speak just to keep people comfortable anymore. She doesn't stay in conversations that drain her energy or feed her insecurities. When the energy is off, she no longer questions herself. She trusts her intuition. And when people start acting like she's too much, too emotional, too strong, too soft, she doesn't shrink herself to fit their standards. She just walks away. When a woman stops speaking, when she chooses not to engage, not to argue, not to explain, that's when she's finally free. Free from the need to be accepted, free from the pressure to please everyone, free from the illusion that love must come with sacrifice of self. And that kind of freedom, that's lethal. People start noticing. They start wondering, what changed? Why isn't she calling anymore? Why isn't she responding like she used to? Why is she so calm, so distant, so untouchable? That's the shift they never saw coming, because they were used to the version of her that would overextend, over apologize, over love. But that version of her is gone. She realized something powerful. Being quiet doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes it means you've grown. Sometimes it means you finally outgrown the situations and the people that once had control over you. Silence is not surrender, it's elevation. And once she reached that place, everything changed. Her standards rose. Her patience got shorter. Her time became more valuable. She doesn't entertain chaos anymore. She doesn't argue with liars. She doesn't explain herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She just leaves, and not in anger, not in revenge, in peace. Because silence gave her clarity. She saw who supported her growth and who was threatened by it. She saw who stayed when she had nothing to give and who disappeared when she needed the most. She saw the truth so clearly, so painfully, so beautifully. That's what people don't understand about a woman who stops talking. She's not disconnected. She's more connected than ever. Just not with them. She's connected to herself, to her power, to her purpose. She has nothing to prove now. Her value is no longer up for debate. She doesn't show up to convince anyone she's enough. She knows she is, with or without approval, with or without applause, with or without company. And that self-knowing, that's dangerous. Because a woman who doesn't seek validation cannot be manipulated. She's not influenced by praise, and she's not shaken by criticism. She doesn't lose herself trying to make others feel whole. She doesn't settle for half love or broken friendships or inconsistent loyalty. She demands more, not by force, not with noise, but with presence. Her silence says everything. It says, I don't need to fight to be chosen. I choose me. It says, I've outgrown this version of myself, the one that begged, the one that pleaded, the one that waited. It says, I'm not waiting anymore. And people feel that. They feel the shift. They feel her absence where her presence used to fill the room. They feel her silence louder than any argument they ever had. And for some, it's haunting, because they never imagined the day she'd stop trying. They thought she'd always come back, always reach out, always forgive without being asked. But not anymore. She values her peace more than the illusion of connection. She values her silence more than empty conversation. She values her time, her heart, her soul, and she won't waste them again. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't beg, she builds. She doesn't explain, she embodies. She walks like she knows who she is, because now she does. And that's the part that scares people the most. The woman they could once control with a few sweet words is gone. The woman who used to explain every feeling, justify every boundary, cry over every disappointment, she's disappeared into her own healing. What's left is the woman they never expected. The woman who is silent but strong, quiet but powerful, calm but unshakable. The kind of woman who doesn't need to say a word to shake your world. She learned the most dangerous lesson a woman can ever learn, that not everything deserves a reaction. You see, when she was younger, she believed she had to respond to everything. Every lie, every insult, every betrayal, every little comment that poked at her worth, her peace, her dignity. She used to think silence meant weakness, that if she didn't speak up, they'd think they won. So she'd argue, she'd explain, she'd fight to be understood. She wanted fairness. She wanted closure. She wanted people to know they were wrong. But all it ever did was drain her. All it ever brought her was exhaustion, not healing. And then something shifted. She got tired. Not angry, not bitter, just tired. Tired of giving her energy to people who weren't even listening. Tired of reacting to things that didn't deserve her voice. Tired of being pulled into chaos that had nothing to do with her peace. So she stepped back. She didn't say a word, not because she didn't have anything to say, but because it just wasn't worth it anymore. She understood that peace is more powerful than pride. And silence? That's a woman's sharpest weapon when wielded with wisdom. She started choosing her energy wisely. She learned that you don't have to respond to every accusation. You don't have to explain yourself to people who already made up their minds. You don't have to argue with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than truth. That's the growth no one talks about. The maturity of knowing when to walk away, when to let them talk, when to let them assume, when to let them judge, without trying to defend yourself. Because she realized that people only understand from their level of perception. And if their lens is dirty, they'll never see her clearly. She stopped chasing justice in places that were built on injustice. She stopped demanding clarity from people who live in confusion. She stopped expecting loyalty from those who never had the capacity for it. And with that choice, she found a new level of power. One that doesn't scream, doesn't shout, doesn't argue. It just is. And that unsettles people because they can't manipulate her with their words anymore. They can't draw her into emotional battles. They can't control her reactions because now she gives none. She's not moved by gossip or triggered by petty attacks. She lets people talk. She lets them tell their stories. She lets them paint her as the villain if they need to, because she's no longer interested in playing their game. She found her peace, and she's not bargaining it for anyone. There's a power in that kind of restraint. A woman who can sit in a room full of noise and still hold her peace. That's not weakness. That's strength on a level most people will never reach. It's a discipline. It's a form of self-respect. She respects herself enough not to be pulled into situations that disturb her spirit. When people push her buttons, she doesn't flinch. When they provoke her, she doesn't bite. When they lie on her name, she doesn't clap back. Because she knows truth doesn't need defense. Time reveals everything. And when you know your worth, you stop auditioning for people who don't see it. Let them wonder why she's quiet. Let them assume. Let them gossip. She's no longer reacting. She's protecting her peace, her purpose, her progress. She's preserving her energy for things that actually matter. And that decision, that quiet power, it's louder than anything she could ever say. People are uncomfortable around a woman like that. They're used to chaos. They feed off drama. They don't know what to do when you stop showing up to the fight. They mistake her silence for defeat. But she knows better. She knows silence is the space where transformation happens, where healing takes root, where wisdom grows. She doesn't need to be right. She doesn't need to win the argument. She doesn't need to have the last word. She needs peace. She needs freedom. She needs her mind and soul intact. And no amount of petty back and forth is worth trading that for. That's what makes her dangerous. Because while they're busy talking, she's building. While they're busy lying, she's leveling up. While they're stuck in cycles of drama, she's moving in silence, growing in silence, healing in silence. And when she returns, it's not with words, it's with results, with glow, with strength they didn't see coming. She watches, observes, disengages, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because she's evolved. She doesn't respond emotionally anymore. She responds with distance, with silence, with boundaries. And let me tell you something, when a woman reaches that level of control, that level of peace, that level of silence, there's no force more powerful, there's no threat more real, because you can't fight what doesn't show up. You can't trap someone who no longer plays the game. That's why she's dangerous, because she no longer reacts. She just rises. She used to wear her heart on her sleeve. She used to open up to the wrong people, hoping they'd understand, hoping they'd protect what she gave so freely, her thoughts, her feelings, her truth. But with time, life taught her something brutal. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Not everyone has the capacity to handle your vulnerability. And not everyone should be allowed inside your mind. So she changed, not overnight, not with bitterness, but with quiet awareness. She stopped giving people the privilege of knowing what she truly felt. She stopped reacting just to prove she had something to say. She stopped offering her soul in conversations that were never meant to reach her depth. Now, she protects herself in the most powerful way by becoming emotionally unavailable to chaos. It's not that she doesn't feel. It's not that she doesn't care. Oh, she feels deeply. She cares more than most could ever comprehend. But she's learned to guard that depth. She's learned to keep the best parts of herself away from those who only take and never give. She used to try and explain herself to people who were committed to misunderstanding her. She'd pour out her heart just to be heard, to be seen. But now she knows that silence holds more value than empty explanations. She's no longer moved by the need to defend herself, because truth doesn't require an audience. The more emotionally unavailable she became to drama, to noise, to games, the more peace she found. Emotional unavailability is not always about being closed off. Sometimes it's about being wise enough to know what deserves your emotional investment. It's about realizing that your inner world is sacred, and not everyone gets an invitation. So she stopped giving people her tears. She stopped showing them her wounds. She stopped inviting them into her healing process, because they weren't there to help. They were just curious. Some even wanted to see her break. But she gave them nothing. And that nothing, that silence, that emotional distance, that's what made her untouchable. You can't manipulate someone who's no longer triggered. You can't guilt trip a woman who no longer seeks validation. You can't toy with her feelings when she no longer gives you access to them. She saw the pattern. She saw how people would provoke her just to feel powerful, so she shut the door. Calmly, silently, without explanation. Now, when they test her, she doesn't flinch. When they provoke her, she doesn't give them a show. When they try to pull her into their chaos, she simply detaches. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, she rises above it. Because she knows reacting is a luxury she can no longer afford. Her peace became non-negotiable. She learned the art of being unbothered, the strength in keeping her emotions to herself, the power in walking away without making noise. She doesn't need revenge. She doesn't need closure. She doesn't need to be understood. What she needs is alignment, balance, purpose. And she's willing to lose people to keep that. She speaks less and watches more. She doesn't tell people what she's feeling. She shows them through her distance, through her silence, through the boundaries she no longer negotiates. And that's what terrifies people. Because once a woman stops giving you her emotions, you lose the ability to control her. You lose the ability to disturb her peace. You lose the access you once had to her soul. And there's no coming back from that. She's emotionally unavailable to anything that doesn't grow her, to anything that disturbs her healing, to anything that smells like manipulation or disrespect. She's unavailable to fake love, to empty apologies, to performative loyalty. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg. She doesn't hope anymore. She chooses herself every time. You might think she's cold, that she's distant, that she doesn't care. But that's not the truth. She cares more than you'll ever know. But she's done bleeding for people who never learned how to hold her heart. She's done drowning in emotions she can't share with people who only want her when she's convenient. She's emotionally unavailable to the chaos, to the drama, to the games. But she's fully available to her growth, to her purpose, to the peace she fought so hard to earn. She shows up for herself now. And that version of her, that quiet, unshakable, focused version, that's the version they never saw coming. She became dangerous the moment she decided that not everyone deserves her softness. The moment she chose to reserve her emotions for herself. The moment she stopped explaining her silence and started building in it. They can say what they want. They can assume. They can judge. She doesn't respond.
Because she knows emotional discipline is the highest form of self-respect, and she's no longer available to anything less. She knows something most people never figure out. Revenge isn't always loud. It's not screaming in someone's face or proving a point or trying to make them hurt like you did. No, the most powerful form of revenge is quiet. It's unspoken. It's a transformation that doesn't require an announcement. It's a comeback that doesn't need an explanation. It's the silence after the storm, the kind that makes people uncomfortable because they expected rage but got distance instead. She used to react. She used to cry, yell, ask why. She used to pour her soul into trying to make people see how they hurt her. She gave them tears. She gave them energy. She gave them moments she could have used to heal, but not anymore. That woman is gone. Now she chooses the quiet route, not because she's weak, not because she's afraid, but because she understands the power of stillness. When you stop reacting, you take back control. You don't let them know where hurts. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you broken. They expect a reaction, and when you give them nothing, that silence speaks volumes. They feel it in their gut. They hear it in the absence of your voice. They see it in the way you've moved on without needing to explain how. That kind of silence shakes people, because silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. It's power. It's clarity. While they're watching to see how you'll react, you're building, you're rising, you're healing. You're turning the pain into fuel, not by lashing out, not by playing their game, but by stepping out of it altogether. They tried to hurt you, but instead they taught you. They thought you'd fall apart, but instead you found peace. They wanted chaos, but you gave them calm. Oh, that's dangerous. Because while they're gossiping, you're growing. While they're watching, you're winning. While they're stuck in the same place, you've already left the room. You're not coming back to explain. You're not showing up to prove a point. You're not lowering yourself just to be seen. You've moved past the need to be heard in places that never valued your voice to begin with. The woman they tried to break, she rebuilt herself in silence. She didn't send warnings. She didn't give speeches. She just disappeared. And when she came back, she was unrecognizable, stronger, wiser, quieter, and more focused than ever. That silence, that's not her shutting down. That's her sharpening her vision. That's her choosing what matters. That's her letting go of what once held her back. She's not ignoring you. She's outgrowing you. And when a woman gets quiet like that, it means she's stepping into her power. It means she's done explaining, done defending, done waiting. Because she knows the best revenge is not revenge, it's success. It's peace. It's living so fully and so freely that the people who doubted her have no choice but to watch in silence. They won't hear from her, but they'll hear about her, about how she rose, about how she thrived, about how she kept her dignity when she could have destroyed everything in anger. Her silence isn't weakness. It's patience. It's focus. It's discipline. It's understanding that some battles are beneath her. Some arguments are a waste of breath. Some people aren't worth another word. She doesn't need to clap back. She doesn't need to expose anyone. She doesn't need to prove anything because she is the proof. She is the result of choosing grace over vengeance, growth over grudges, purpose over pettiness. And when she walks into a room now, she doesn't need to say a word. Her presence tells the whole story. Her energy speaks louder than her past. Her silence is a language only those who've tried to break her will ever truly understand. But let them wonder how she's so calm. Let them question how she's so strong. Let them talk while she builds. Because the real victory isn't them knowing they were wrong. It's them realizing you never needed their validation to win. That's the quiet revenge. That's the transformation. That's the kind of woman who no longer fights with words. She fights with actions, results, and boundaries so firm that not even regret can break through. She doesn't announce her healing. She doesn't broadcast her elevation. She just moves. And that movement, that silence, that peace, it's the loudest thing they'll never be able to ignore. She's not the same anymore, and she didn't have to scream to prove it. So don't mistake her silence for surrender. That silence is her freedom. I think it's her clarity. It's her revenge. Because the most dangerous woman is not the one who strikes back. It's the one who walks away in silence and never looks back. So if you're watching this and you've chosen silence, stay there. Let your silence speak volumes. Let it build your empire. Let it remind the world you don't have to roar to be powerful. Sometimes the quietest woman in the room is the one who already won.